It's time for the San Antonio Spurs to give it up. I'm calling it. Enough is enough. We gotta talk about that, plus take a look at some of the games that went down last night, and then end today off with talking about the cold hard truth regarding these Philadelphia 76ers. That's a look at what we gotta talk about today, but with that out of the way, what is up, guys? It's me, Zach Lee. Happy Monday. Hope you're all having a fantastic day, no matter what part of the world you might be watching from. You guys coming in know the drill though. Go ahead and smack that like button, destroy that like button, as it does truly help the channel grow. But not only that, make sure that you are subscribed to the channel with post notifications turned on so you can stay up to date with everything that goes on in the NBA, so you can get more videos like this every Monday through Friday. That is 5 days per week. And that's enough talking though. Now let's just get into what we do gotta talk about. But first, I do have to give a quick shout out to the very gracious sponsor of this video, SeatGeek. I mean, honestly, for real, guys, if you are not using the SeatGeek app to get tickets to games or any other live events by now, then I don't know what you're doing, nor do I know how you're getting your tickets. I mean, this is the best way to get tickets, point blank, period. It's easy, convenient, simple to use. You get a view from the seats before you buy your tickets. You get to make sure you're getting the best prices. And not only that, but you also get an additional $20 off your first order when you use the promo code SDC at checkout. If you're still waiting to try and find tickets to a game or trying to do anything that revolves around getting tickets, get SeatGeek. I'll have the link so you can download it down in the description box below. There's not many teams in sports that are as respected as the San Antonio Spurs. I mean, this is a team that for the past 2 decades has been relevant. For the past 2 decades has made the playoffs. Do you know how hard it is to keep up that sort of longevity in any major sport? I mean, so much has changed in the NBA over the past 20 years, except for the fact that the San Antonio Spurs have been a good team. That's been one of the constants over the past 20 plus years. Except for this year. Last year with the San Antonio Spurs, it was an interesting season. It was their first official year post Kawhi Leonard. They brought in DeMar DeRozan. They of course still had LaMarcus Aldridge, and they had a nice young guard in DeJounte Murray, who unfortunately missed the entire season. The Spurs still go on to make the playoffs, losing the first round, right? This year, 13 games into the season, and I've seen enough. Enough is enough. It's time to pull the plug in San Antonio. They are 5-8 on the year, on a 5-game losing streak, mind you, while this team is as healthy as it's pretty much been. They've got everybody. DeJounte Murray is back. DeMar DeRozan still playing. LaMarcus Aldridge still playing. Rudy Gay still playing. And they're 5-8 on the year. Listen to this. They're 12th in the league in scoring at 112 points per game, 5th in rebounds at 47.5 per game, 8th in field goal percentage at 46%. But where it gets bad is, of course, their 3-point shooting. They are 29th in the league, almost dead last at 3-pointers made per game at just 8. Which is kind of confusing because they're 15th in 3-point percentage at 35%. So they're not a great 3-point shooting team, but they are also not the worst 3-point shooting team. The only problem for the San Antonio Spurs is that they just don't have a lot of players who they are confident in taking threes. You look at 3 of their best players, arguably their 3 best players. DeJounte Murray, not a 3-point shooter at this point in his career. DeMar DeRozan had a brief stint with the Raptors where he tried to shoot threes towards the end of his tenure in Toronto, but he's never been a 3-point shooter, and this year he's just not shooting threes at all. He's not taking them. And then you have LaMarcus Aldridge, who defenses will allow to shoot threes. You'd rather have Aldridge shooting threes compared to 15 feet from the rim, so they'll take it, and he's only hitting 33% this year. We're playing in a league that revolves so heavily around the 3-point shot. You look at the freaking Houston Rockets. You look at James Harden alone. This dude is jacking up threes left and right, and that's just the way that the league has been going. So for a team to have 3 of its best players not be able to shoot threes, this is the result of that. I mean, what else can you do? DeMar DeRozan isn't just magically going to turn into a 3-point shooter. Neither is DeJounte Murray, and LaMarcus Aldridge at 34 years old. We know exactly who LaMarcus Aldridge is. So for the Spurs, where do you go from here? It's finally time to pull the plug. Look, it's been a great 2 decades. But to think that they could go the entire history, the X number of years that they still have left to be a franchise in the NBA without missing the playoffs and without having to go through some sort of rebuilding phase like every other team in the league has to go through, that's just not possible to believe. The Spurs should look at this as a down year. I really think they should look to offload the contract of DeMar DeRozan, which, to be honest, I'm not too sure how many teams are in the market for DeMar DeRozan right now. Maybe you look at a team like the Orlando Magic, but not only that, you also have to look at offloading the contract of LaMarcus Aldridge. Now, he has 2 years left on his contract this year, and then next year owed a total of around $50 million over the 2. And he is a player that I think some teams like the Boston Celtics should be really looking at right now. The Boston Celtics need an upgrade at their starting center spot. They've been playing phenomenal basketball. Of course, he just lost Gordon Hayward to a hand injury for about the next 2 months, but they've still been playing some phenomenal basketball. If you get a guy like LaMarcus Aldridge, he will add another dimension to the Boston Celtics where he gives them a true big man, a true good big man. All right, moving on. The other thing that we have to talk about today is the Philadelphia 76ers and the harsh truth surrounding them. But before we get into that, we do have to get into the other games that went down last night. And here they are. The first one we got is the Sacramento Kings snapping the Boston Celtics 9-game winning streak. The Kings improving to 5-7 on the year after their awful, horrid, miserable start. Buddy Hield with 35 points. The Denver Nuggets continue to be great. They trounced the Memphis Grizzlies last night, 131-114. Jamal Murray with his best game of the season with 39 points and 8 assists. The Los Angeles Lakers beat the Hawks 122-101, capping off a very rough weekend for the Atlanta Hawks. They got 150 points dropped on their head by the Clippers the night before, and then they got spanked by the Lakers. Just not a good time for the Hawks whatsoever. LeBron James, 33 points, 12 assists, and 7 rebounds. The Orlando Magic edge out the Washington Wizards, 125-121. Nikola Vucevic, a monster game, 30 points, 17 rebounds, and 6 assists. Meanwhile, Markelle Fultz still showing that there's signs of life in him. He's going to be a good player. He just needs time. 19 points, a new career high. And lastly, for the game recaps, the depleted New Orleans Pelicans defeat the depleted Golden State Warriors, 108-100 in this one. JJ Redick, whose playoff streak will end with 26 points, while Jrue Holiday was huge once again, 22 points, 9 assists, and 8 rebounds. Now though, for the final topic of the day, what should be the biggest topic of the day, we have to talk about the Philadelphia 76ers. See, they beat the Cleveland Cavaliers last night, right? They beat the Cleveland Cavaliers 114-95. But here's the thing. The Philadelphia 76ers this year were supposed to be dominant. They were supposed to be right up there with the Milwaukee Bucks as one of the favorites to come out of the Eastern Conference. I know a lot of people had them as the favorite to come out of the Eastern Conference, and that includes myself. I thought this team was going to be representing the Eastern Conference come June. And who knows? They still might. But through the first 13 games of the season, there's a lot of concern for me regarding these Philadelphia 76ers. They're 8-5 on the year now with this win over Cleveland. And yes, Joel Embiid has missed time with suspensions. Ben Simmons missed a couple of games, then Joel Embiid missed another game too. All right? They've had people in and out of the lineup. They are adjusting to players like Al Horford and Josh Richardson coming in. This is a time of adjustment for Philly, no doubt. But that does not take away the concerns that I have regarding this team. First and foremost, financially, the Philadelphia 76ers are in a very bad place financially. They're paying a guy like Tobias Harris, who I have nothing but respect for Tobias Harris. All right, this is a guy who I think a lot of teams would love to get at the right price. But the Philadelphia 76ers are paying him $32 million this year. Now, Tobias Harris, once again, is a good player, putting up 8, 10, and 8. And I feel like he could go to any team in the league and get you 18 to 20 points any night. An efficient to 18, 20 points. He's a very good guy. Shows up, does his work, puts in the work, gives you his best, and keeps him moving. He is a very, very good player. But $32 million a year for Tobias Harris this year is too much, and it doesn't get any better. Look, by the time he's 31, during the final year of his contract, the dude's gonna be making $40 million. $40 million. They're paying Tobias Harris what James Harden is going to be making. Well, players like Stephen Curry, James Harden, LeBron James, Kawhi Leonard, Anthony Davis, the cream of the crop players make. That's too much to pay for Tobias Harris. And Elton Brand has been an interesting general manager so far. He's been doing some interesting moves for the Philadelphia 76ers. Of course, he's the one that brought in Jimmy Butler and Tobias Harris. Right? He's been a super aggressive general manager. He's been saying, you know what? We have Joel Embiid. We have Ben Simmons. We have these two young phenoms in our possession. We need to go in and try and win with these guys right now, because the last thing we want is to miss our window of opportunity with these guys and then have something to happen where they leave in free agency and we have to rebuild once again, right? So Elton Brand's been saying our time is now. That's what he's been saying for the Philadelphia 76ers, and a lot of people do agree with that, right? The Philadelphia 76ers, they have the young talent with Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. They should be trying to win every single year. But then there's a question of, has Elton Brand been a bit too aggressive with the moves that he's making for the Philadelphia 76ers? Because not only are you paying Tobias Harris, but you're also now paying Al Horford. Right? He's making $100 million over the next 3 years. And then you still have to pay Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. And then you have Josh Richardson. You bring him in from the Miami Heat. And he's a player that I like. But so far, he hasn't been the best player for the Philadelphia 76ers, averaging just 14 points per game, not shooting the ball well from the field or for three, still defending, still competing out there hard, but offensively, he hasn't really meshed with the Philadelphia 76ers just yet. He has good games, he has bad games, he's been inconsistent. Al Horford so far this year. He's been Al Horford. You know exactly what you're going to get from him, except for the fact that he too hasn't really been making his threes. He's only at 31%. And he's another guy who, before the season started, we were saying, well, he's really going to have to be shooting the lights out for the Philadelphia 76ers because this team has no spacing in its starting lineup. And then not to mention his bench is just horrendous. They do not have a good bench whatsoever. And then you look at Joel Embiid. And for some reason, he's been good, putting up just under 23 points, go along with 12 rebounds. But this is a guy who's supposed to be an MVP candidate. Right now, so far this year, when he has played, he hasn't been playing like an MVP candidate. And then that gets you to the biggest issue with the Philadelphia 76ers, and that is Ben Simmons. Now, I love Ben Simmons. I think Ben Simmons is part of a big future for this NBA. He's destined to go down as one of the greatest ever play. I can see that for Ben Simmons. Sure, he does not have a jump shot at the moment. He's working on it, but still it is MIA. All those videos that we saw over the summer coming out teasing us that Ben Simmons might have a jump shot were just that, a freaking tease. But maybe in a couple of years, Ben Simmons eventually starts shooting 15, 18 feet away from the rim. 5 years down the line, he starts making a couple of threes. Players like Jason Kidd didn't start to develop a three-point shot till later in his career. It appears like Ben Simmons is going to be the same thing, but that didn't stop Jason Kidd from going down as one of the greatest to ever play. But I think something else stopping Ben Simmons from being one of the greatest ever play is the fact that right now, he does not fit with this Philadelphia 76ers team. If you look at the personnel around Ben Simmons, it's not the type of players that you want Ben Simmons playing with. If this was the freaking young LeBron, you guys remember LeBron before he got his jump shot, before LeBron James was the LeBron James that we see today. And LeBron James was playing with the team, he'd be struggling too because there's not enough spacing. They're playing at too slow of a freaking pace for Ben Simmons. He is not the best half-court player by any stretch of the imagination. He's at his best when he's running in the open court. And that's why you see him playing for a lot of steals, because he wants to get out and run in the open court. He's one of the best guys at getting steals in the NBA so far this season. But the Philadelphia 76ers, with guys like Joel Embiid and Al Horford, two big guys, you're going to have to run a slower offense because these guys aren't going to be running down the court the pace Ben Simmons wants to play. I mean, it's just not a good fit. Ben Simmons, along with Joel Embiid, Al Horford, Tobias Harris, Josh Richardson, is not a good fit. It's just not. This year, he's only averaging 13 points, 6 rebounds, and about the same 8 assists per game. He's been statistically just about the same his first 3 years in the NBA. 3 years. And I don't think the Philadelphia 76ers can necessarily utilize Ben Simmons the way that Ben Simmons needs to be utilized in order for him to live up to his max potential. So there are going to be some hard questions coming for the Philadelphia 76ers surrounding Ben Simmons, because it's clear that Philly belongs to Embiid, right? If you had to move one of the two, you move Ben Simmons and you keep Joel Embiid. That's what it's going to come down to, because honestly, unless some other massive changes happen with every other player on this roster, and that's going to be hard to do, especially for a player like Tobias Harris, because other teams are going to look at their contract and say, well, dang, you turned a nice player who a lot of people want to trade for into a player who a lot of people can't afford to trade for, because who can afford to pay Tobias Harris $40 million a year? Honestly, the only team that I think might be able to do that would be a team like the OKC Thunder, and the only way you're going to be able to do that is if you swap Tobias Harris for Chris Paul, which ironically, even though that sounds like a terrible idea, could be a good idea, because I believe Chris Paul is a type of player who would be a better fit to run the offense for this team than a guy like Ben Simmons. Chris Paul is one of the best half-court generals in the entire NBA. He's used to playing with big men, right? So having him run the point, play defense, stretch the floor, he's a much better shooter than anyone else on the Philadelphia 76ers. It will make a lot of sense. But these are tough questions that the Philadelphia 76ers are going to have to ask themselves, because while I do hope that this team can be championship contenders, I would love to see Joel Embiid in the NBA Finals. They have questions to answer before that happens. That though is going to do it for everything that we have to talk about today. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you think about all of this down in the comment section below. What do you think about the Spurs? Do you think that this is the end of the line for them? And also, what do you think about the Ben Simmons and the Philadelphia 76ers situation? Do you think that they're going to need to split sides at some point? Like I said, let me know down in the comment section below. But thank you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Smack that like button if you enjoyed, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on more videos like this every Monday through Friday. All of that being said though, until tomorrow, keep getting the buckets, Team SDC, and I'm out of here. Peace.